Yeah, these are rather deep-seated.
Yeah, I sat down, I fell. Roger, you've got a lot of energy this morning, running in, ready to go.
Yeah, I was late, so I only just got here. No, I'm joking. Yeah.
You've just had photo ops, haven't you? How did they go?
They were great, weren't they? They went well, right?
What?
Our photo ops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They took pictures. We smiled. You laughed. We cried.
How's everyone doing, all right? Good
It's
stuff.
early, and it's afternoon. That's not... Woo! Show of hands, who stayed up last night? Who is still from... There we go. That's why. Right. There's my party people right there. They're like, sleep? Nah. But
To be fair, I saw you in the bar last night pretty late. I was talking to someone, I saw you come say hi, and then you were like, nope, bye.
Yeah, we know what you're like, CJ. Yeah, I remember Edinburgh. That was pretty crazy, wasn't it?
Oh, well, to be fair, Edinburgh, we were together. You waiting for your takeaway was hilarious.
Yeah. The Uber Eats is much better in Birmingham, I'll tell you.
Literally pouring rain, had his hoodie up, and was stood outside for 40 minutes waiting for this Uber Eats. But no.
what a commitment.
Yeah, I was very committed, man. I was hungry too.
Yeah, I did offer you some of my chips.
I just want to remind you all, you sat and waited for this conversation. This conversation is what you sat and waited for.
Yeah, it was a curry. It was a curry what I was waiting for up in Edinburgh. The curries here are much better in Birmingham.
This is welcome to two old guys on a couch telling stories.
Am I the other old guy?
And then after that, of course, we had to go and watch The Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, and they put a Scotch egg in this curry.
And then we went to sleep, and thank God I woke up.
Yeah, and they always have much better curries here than in the United States.
And then we're gonna stop with
true,
that bit
isn't it?
because it's truly awful. All right,
Get
we'll
good
make
pizza
you laugh.
in the States. Get good curries in the UK.
Yeah. Okay.
Save us.
Let's get back on to point. Welcome back to MCM. Thank you for coming to see your fans. What's it like to be back seeing all of these awesome people in front of us?
Thrill a minute, you guys. Just the heart-breaking, heart-wrenching, pulsating, throbbing. I'm going to stop using these words because it's a Sunday and it's the Lord's Day. It's wonderful to be back. Roger, how are you?
It really is overwhelming that you guys still... I know you guys hop in the cars for sometimes, some of you, hours and hours. I know there's a train
Bikes.
strike, and it really means the world that you come and show us your appreciation and your support. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
I also want to know how many of you just found out there was a train strike and you're all going, there's a what?
We're getting home. You're not. You're staying in Birmingham. At least it's Birmingham, though, right?
Yeah. The place of good curries, supposedly. So there we go.
And the much more reliable Uber Eats, too.
Now, obviously, you get to travel all around the world, meeting fans and everything like that.
I go about 3/4 of the way and I turn back. I don't go all the way around. If you go all the way around, Superman taught us you'll actually change time.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Jesus, guys, come on.
That was Jules Verne, wasn't it? Around the world in 80 days.
He did it in 80 days.
Yeah,
I
he
thought
thought
I
he
could do
did it in
79.
81.
And
but
at the
when
end of the movie,
it turned out he gained a day. Yeah. I just spoiled it for you now, didn't I? Sorry.
Yeah, what happens at the end of Sixth Sense? Do you want to kind of...
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens. No, I won't, no.
So
I'll tell you what happens at the end of Red Dead. Do we all know what happens? No, I won't do that. What happens? I'll tell you what happens at the beginning of Last of Us 2. No, I won't do that either.
I still haven't got over the start of Last of Us 1, to be fair. I think I've told you before, I only got up to the credits.
there's a window.
A window? That's it. Yeah. Nothing more.
6 people apparently have played the game that got that joke.
Who's played Last of Us? Who's played Red Dead?
No.
Got it.
Have a great panel, everybody.
So welcome to the Roger Clark panel.
Yeah, no shit. Can I tell you my funny story? So Roger and I meet for the first time, and I was a little I was trepidatious about meeting him because I had spent so much time in Red Dead, and it was like the first game I spent hours, and it's one of the most watershed, beautiful moments ever in gaming, where you're crossing over from Texas and New Mexico, and that Jose Valdez song plays, and it's just like, oh my gosh, incredible, incredible song. Or Jose Gonzalez, sorry, song plays. And so Red Dead comes out, and I told my wife, I was like, I am blocking out just the month to play this game, and I spent so much time. And then you get to the island, and I was like, okay, now we grind. And I don't know if you guys remember the gold bar glitch when the game first came out. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Okay, I exploited that glitch. All of my guns were gold-plated. I had all of the outfits. So when you do that one mission, we're like, well, we got to get you looking pretty first. I'm like, bitch, I look good. What are you talking about? So I get to the island, and I go through all of those missions. And we all know that wasn't necessarily the most shining diamond of that game. It was a grind. It was really, really hard. And I finally make my way back. I go back to the plantation. I'm back in the game. And then I stopped playing because my son was born. So cut to like 9 months later, I finally had a night where it was just me, and I was going to load up that game, I was going to get high, and I was going to play Red Dead. Step number 1 completed, and then I start playing Red Dead, and it loads up the game, and I'm washing up on the island. And I went, oh no. No, I had a faulty save, and it lost hours of the game, and I was going to have to replay back through the island.
Oh, Guarma, yeah.
So I never finished the game, and I meet Roger. I'm like, dude, such an honor to meet you. Your work is incredible. It's an incredible character. I want to be honest with you. I never finished the game. And he goes,
did I spoil it for
he
you
goes,
then?
do you want me
I'm good
to
at
tell
that.
you what happens? And so he told me. So I know now I never have to.
He doesn't need to finish it now. Yeah. Well,
Thank you all for going on that journey with me and for getting really, really quiet when I mentioned smoking weed. That was a lot of fun, too.
Awkward.
Judging me.
Yeah. Last of Us 2, that was one of my COVID pleasures. Yeah. That and Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, but man,
Did you do it in that order?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
I did Tsushima second. But Last of Us 2 was insane. Absolutely loved it. The Rat King in the bottom of the hospital. We were talking about that yesterday. That was just over and over and over again.
Do you guys don't know what we're talking about with the Rat King? Okay.
Yeah.
That was a result of Neil Druckmann playing Bloodborne.
You can tell, too, because it's so hard.
Yeah, he was so into that game. He was like, oh, we need to make this game super hard. I'm like, stop playing that game, dude, because it was the most ridiculous of all levels.
And the beginning, too. Like, I never wanted to play golf so bad before.
You're an asshole.
It's okay. You can crack some TB jokes later on. It's all good.
Obviously, talking about working together for Solis, how did that come about? Like, who kind of got the role first? Did you know each other might be involved? What kind of drew you to that project?
I think I came on board first, and this great dev out of Fallen Leaf, James, reached out to me and reached out to my agent and was like, hey, we've got this new project, and this is in the middle of COVID, so we're trying to figure out how all of it was going to work. He was like, but we definitely know that we wanted to have a strong cinematic component. This is a strong single-player narrative-based kind of campaign. And they sent me the deck, and they sent me what script they had, and I was like, let's jump on the phone and talk about this character. So I had a great Zoom with him, and I just really liked the fact that he knew what kind of game he wanted to make. And he wanted to keep it small. He wanted to keep it very intimate. He knew what his strengths were, and he was going to play into that. And then he was like, this character is going to have this, if you haven't played the game, which you should, I was like, I want this character to serve this purpose. I was like, great, who's going to be opposite of that? I said, we're not sure yet. And I had mentioned Roger, and he had already been thinking about Roger, and so it was just kismet. It was like, we got to get Roger in this game. So the second that I found that he was going to be involved, I'm like, let's go. And we shot it all like in a week.
The mocap part was a week, yeah. And that was in London. And I'll never forget when they first approached me and they told me that Troy was on board. The whole time I was working on Red Dead 2, I was studying you, man. I was literally studying you.
Don't do this.
Not at all. I jumped at the opportunity. I couldn't wait, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing being on the volume with Troy, and then playing the game afterwards. There was so much of your stuff that I didn't see, and my gosh, if you haven't played it yet, Troy is amazing as Wyatt. You don't know where his scientific responsibility begins and his kind of lunacy ends. It's done perfectly, man. It was a real joy. Have you finished it yet? I know you've...
No. So right. I'm one of those people that, especially the first time through, you guys are probably this way too. Your first time playing through a game, if you do play multiple times, for one reason or another, you go a lot slower. I'm not a rabbit run guy. That's just not I'm not trying to say, how fast can I finish this game? But I do like to really go through, especially after getting to know developers and understanding what all goes into them, designing the levels, what goes into the world art, what goes into everything that makes up that game. I feel like I owe it to them, and I want to honor their work. And so I'll have a tendency to just go in every room, look in every drawer. So my first playthrough, like, we're about 4 to 6 hours. I'm like, not for me, man. I'm going to be in there a lot longer. And I'm playing it on my Steam Deck right now, which is, I think, probably taking me a little bit longer because it's harder to see. These old eyes, it's harder for me to see.
Yep. So talking about mocap as well, I remember hearing about an interesting story, Troy, where your butt ended up in a wall. Is that right?
That's right,
so, in the very beginning, and this is where I really feel like every job that we have in some way prepares us for the next one. And so Roger and I, we show up on set, and you can speak to this more than I can, but his level of theater experience and his level of understanding what it takes and the amount of time that he put in on Red Dead alone was enough for us to understand when we saw the amount of physicality that was going to be in these roles. We're like, we really need a good stunt coordinator, a good fight coordinator.
We had awesome stunt coordinators. The Lucky 13 was what they called, right?
Nathaniel Harton came in, and I've never had a stunt coordinator put it to me this way. He was like, tell me the story of the fight. And so he walked us through beat by beat what he wanted this fight to look like. And these fights went from like, just kind of punch a little bit at each other to these beautiful ballets. Like these 12-step fights that we would have, and especially the very last one is incredible. And so I would go in, and I was rehearsing with our two stunt people, our stunt coordinator and our stunt double, because if I couldn't do it, then my stunt double was going to step in and do it for me. And they were in the volume shooting, and we were out kind of like in the lobby area, and I got really into this one fight, and I threw myself into the back of the wall, and my ass went through the wall. And I was like, I'm so sorry. They're like, oh, no, just please sign it because we're going to frame it. It was like, Troy's ass was here. I was like, all right. So,
I walk in then, and I see a big hole in the wall, and I didn't know the story. And I went, hey, guys, have you seen what happened out there?
Oh, we know.
Yeah, we know. But it was really awesome working with Troy and with the fight choreographers, and they had stuntmen doing what we did as well. But I was thrilled to discover that in the end, they used mostly our footage. Yeah, it was like a dance.
And these are not like, but both of our characters are not like, all right, we're fighters. He's a worker, he's a blue-collar dude, and I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a scientist. So for this is two men that are desperate, and what that fight looks like. And so it's not badass Krav Maga. It was dirty, and again, the word would be desperate, was just like anything you can to get the upper hand on somebody. And so it actually ended up looking better with us being clumsy. I'll never forget Julia Brown, who plays
Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, thank you.
Our stunt coordinator, right now this is such an incredible conversation to have, because I really, you guys should understand how incredibly influential and important stunt people are to TV, film, and especially video games, and the amount of work that they do. If you haven't played Spider-Man 2, to see what Noshir, who did a lot of the stunts for that, is what they're doing is incredible.
All that parkour stuff in Spider-Man 2 is insane.
Practical. That's not computer stuff doing that. Those are people moving around in real space doing that.
And they went to the trouble of getting two different kind of parkour styles.
Yes.
One for Miles, one for Peter Parker. And
and you really feel it when you play the game. So we had our stunt coordinator come into us, and I'm supposed to walk up to Jessica, and it's obviously in the shape of it's a dull knife, but it's a knife that I got to put to her neck. And we had one thing that went wrong, and he goes, if you don't feel comfortable, just stop. And he goes, don't improvise on a stunt. Walk through the beats. It's slower than you think. And so we get to this one point where it felt off, and he goes, stop, and we both just walked away. And his ability to clock the fact that she was uncomfortable in a moment, and his ability to go, that's not safe, don't do it, was amazing. And I learned so much about fight choreography in that one shoot. But yeah, play the game, because it's really, really incredible. And his work, especially, you spend a lot of time walking and being inside of someone's brain, and I can't imagine anybody else that I'd want to walk with and be inside of his brain than you. You made it very real and great. We haven't even talked about it.
You were insane. No, you were scaring me. You scared me big time. And so much of the stuff I didn't see until I actually played the game. I hardly recommend. It's out on PS5 and Steam. Fort Solis came out August. Hope you all like it. Yeah.
I think it's also on I think came out for free as PSN monthly as well at one point.
Really?
As well.
There's no excuse. Yeah, if you've got a weekend and a platform, play it.
Yeah. Now, just want to go back to the mocap as well, because a lot of people just think, oh, it's voice work. They don't actually realize that it's you physically doing the actions now, because technology's just changed. Do you find that now that technology's in place, it helps you with your performance? You're kind of embodying that character more?
Well, it depends what you do first. I mean, I coming from the theater background, I physically inhabiting the character is one of my steps, but that's why I find voice acting to be such a challenge, too. I love both of them. But, yeah, I love raising awareness about performance capture, because so much of gaming is done that way now. And I love approaching a character physically first. And then I'll concentrate on the voice. I try and do it differently. Depends on the character. I try to come up with a different process each time so that I come up with different characters and make them as unique as possible. But for me, I love performance capture in gaming, because every time I come back into the volume, this technology is literally exploding right in front of our very eyes. And every time I go in, there's some new development and new advancement that makes our work even easier, and it's becoming more and more like film every day. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I would also challenge anybody that says, I want to be a voice actor. You don't get to decide that. So, the advent of this technology, the way that games are being made, the way that even shows now are being made, if you're paying attention to all what's happening in Unreal 5, is they're realizing that it's easier, those tools to be able to create these very believable performances and this high fidelity. We no longer need this separation between an actor's vocal performance and an animator's skill. We can do them all in the same time. And so when I first started doing this, performance capture wasn't even a thing. Mocap was somewhat used, and then Uncharted hit, and they were like, ooh, we can make this very accessible and very easy and standardize it for this to be a part of game making. And so all of a sudden it became, if you want to be in games, if you want to be in animation, this is part of the gig. And so I would, just like he said, to be able to physically inhabit the role, realizing that you don't have to be this Marcus Phoenix, awesome, athletic, whatever. You can be you, because what we're truly seeing happening in games and animation right now is diversity. And that doesn't mean ticking a box or moving a color shader back and forth. It means creating diverse characters that give opportunities to people that have not had them before. But do not be deceived. It is not about your voice. Having a cool voice is not going to get you a job. H. John Benjamin has a terrible voice, and he has an amazing career because he believes and he is really, really good at being himself. And so make sure that you're not focusing on a voice, and let that just be a byproduct of the character that you understand. And the thing that I do for me is I don't know how to create a character, but I do know what I look like based upon my life experience. And so then I start asking myself questions, which is, what do I look like if this had been my life experience? Joel's from Texas, I'm from Texas, okay, I've got an advantage there, but what do I look like at 50? What do I look like at 50 if I had endured the loss of my child? What do I look like at 50 if I had gone through this incredible apocalypse? What do I look like if I had made these choices in life? And so then it's just me, and that Joel is just a version of me, which is why if somebody else plays that role, like Pedro, he is now putting Joel through his life experiences, and that's why you get a different character that still feels like the same, or a different person that still feels like the same character. So just challenge yourself to not focus on the voice, focus on the character, and focus on acting. That is the consistency. Dig?
And also just mentioning that as well, you are absolutely amazing in the live action Last of Us. Who's watched Last of Us?
Yeah.
Wasn't Troy awesome? How did that actually come about? Was it just meant to be a cameo, or you end up getting like a full kind of dynamic role in a sense?
It started from, and this is one thing you need to understand, just a brief history of how HBO's The Last of Us became a thing is they originally optioned it to be a film, and Neil even wrote a script for the film, and it wasn't working. It just didn't work as a film because it was too condensed. They were cutting out too many characters, too many locations, and too many of the beats that made that story what it was. And so they sat on it. And then the option had expired and reverted back to Sony. Meanwhile, we're doing The Last of Us Part 2. Neil cast Shannon Woodward to play Dina in Last of Us Part 2. Shannon's, one of her dearest friends was Craig Mazin. Craig Mazin had just done Chernobyl, and she goes, "You two should get together." Neil goes, "I'm a huge fan of Chernobyl." Craig goes, "I'm a huge fan of The Last of Us." They go have breakfast, and he goes, "So what are you working on next?" And Craig goes, "I want to adapt The Last of Us into a show." Neil says, "What does that look like?" Craig gives him his pitch. Neil goes, "I love it. What do we do next?" He goes, "We finished breakfast, we pay the check, and we go across the street, and I tell HBO this is the next show that I want to make." They paid the check, went across the street. HBO goes, "That's the show you want to make?" He goes, "This is the show I want to make." Go, "Greenlit, you're good."
I never knew it was that easy.
It was.
Oh, I'm going to do that now.
You can't standardize that, though, because if Chernobyl had failed, it's a non-starter. If anybody else had gotten cast as Dina, it's a non-starter. If they tried to make The Last of Us a movie, it's a non-starter. And so Rahul Kohli, dear friend, just posted this beautiful clip of Robert De Niro auditioning for Sonny in The Godfather. And you hear this voiceover from Martin Scorsese going, he was absolutely brilliant, but he just wasn't sellable as Sonny. So you get James Caan in that role. And then you cut to Godfather Part 2, which is where De Niro plays a young Don Corleone, and he gets the Oscar for it. So just because something doesn't work out for you now does not mean that there's not a better opportunity from behind it. Good things come to those who wait. And it sounds like such a cheesy cookie-cutter advice, but it's true. And the patience and the diligence that was required in order to make The Last of Us show pays off in dividends, because then you get Long Time in Strawberries with Murray Bartlett and Nick Offerman. You get these beautiful moments that would not have happened in the film at all. There is no such thing as failure. There's only such thing as delayed success.
And I would just like to add that I love the fact that Neil and Craig brought in so much of the original cast into the adaptation too. And not just that, but he put you in roles that I've never quite seen you guys in before. And Troy, you were awesome. You were vulnerable and terrifying at the same time, and that's a tricky balance to pull off. And then we have Ashley literally giving birth to Ellie, which is pretty cool as well. And
I think Ashley got the coolest role for sure. Jeffrey Pierce got to play a character.
Oh, he was awesome.
Just wired for. Gru had his beard, his prepper beard. But for me, it was important for Neil and Craig both to have some spiritual connection from the game to the show. And that starts with Neil Druckmann being co-showrunner and executive producer and helping to write the scripts, directing episode. And you feel it. You feel something different from other shows, which is, yeah, we understand the IP, and we're going to do our own thing. And then someone going, no, this needs to be a different telling of the same story. And so them bringing in Jeffrey, then bringing in Merle Dandridge, them bringing, which I got to say, to Merle's credit, she auditioned, and she won that role twice. It's not that they like gave it to her. HBO was like, we think we want to do something different. And Merle came in and crushed it again and proved she is the only one that can play that character. And it's amazing. And then to me, Neil goes, I want you to play James. I was like, oh man, thank you so much. who's James? It's like, he's like, Buddy Boy. I went, oh, the guy with the, yeah, okay. And they really gave me some meat. They gave me something to do in that episode and in that show. And we took a month to film. They shot each month, or each episode took a month to shoot. One of the longest shooting schedules I've ever seen for a TV show. And the amount of care and diligence and love that went into every single scene, every single set, every single episode of that show is just dumbfounding to me. So we'll see what happens in season 2. It's already looking to be
It's one of the best adaptations of a video game. And look at all the things that have followed now since. And that's all. I think that's on the back of you guys.
I want to see what they do with Fallout.
I saw the trailer the other day. That looked cool, didn't it?
It looks really cool. I think that we've learned it's not about how cool it looks. It's if you are going to introduce a new audience to it, don't make them feel left out. And if you are going to bring a current audience into it, don't make them disappointed. Like, let it be what it is, but don't try to pander, but also don't try to disenfranchise. And that's a really, really delicate balance for them to walk.
I love you mentioned the Nick Offerman episode. I've watched a lot of TV and movies. I've got no life. To me, that was hands down one of the best hours of TV I have seen in over a decade. And it was so nice, the fact that you said, new fans won't understand the kind of characters, but old fans can appreciate this kind of character, seeing that development and the performances, no offense to your episodes as well, but that episode was just mind-blown in the story, the looks of it, and I think that won over a lot of new and old fans going, this show is something special.
Yeah, this
and again,
gave the old fans something new to see.
I have to give credit to what Craig wanted to do with that episode, and he pitched the idea to Neil, and Neil was like, I hate you, because I wish I'd come up with that. But we also could not have told, the story that we told with Bill and Frank is completely different in The Last of Us, but it's not wildly different than, we just get to see a whole lot more of their relationship. But the thing that Craig wanted to do is I'm not a gay, white, middle-aged, married man, and that's what this story is about. So what I need to do is I need to tell that story from the perspective of a gay, white, middle-aged married man. And so our DP was a gay, white, middle-aged married man. The editor was a gay, white, middle-aged married man. He was like, I needed these people around me to help tell this story with some authenticity. Again, that to me is diversity. It's not about creating a character that is this. It's also putting it through the lens of these people that is their life experience, and that's why it felt so authentic. You have Murray Bartlett, who is that character, and you have Nick Offerman, who is being shepherded through that role by all the people that will help it feel authentic. And good God, man, I'll never look at Strawberries or hear that song in the same way again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch the show. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and I applaud their work and how the diligence and care and love that they put into that episode specifically.
And go on, Roger.
When's season 2 out? Is it next summer?
I don't know, man. I mean, the strike has definitely pushed stuff back. Apparently, someone put online that they've had to hold shooting for Pedro's schedule because he's quite busy. But I don't know. The thing is, I don't care. And I whenever it comes out, it's going to be ready. And I would much rather them take time, man. Keep that thing in the oven as long as you need it to. Obviously, we know where it's going to be we're in a different location. We're in a different environment because we're adapting part 2 into the show. So there's all sorts of different components to it now. And I definitely think that they've got a hell of a story that they need to tell, and I just want them to take their time to tell it.
Now, I want to do fan questions in a second, so if anyone wants to line up and do fan questions, you can do so now. But seeing we're talking about adaptions, Roger, would you like to see a Red Dead adaption? And if you could be in it, who would you like to have? What sort of character would you like to have?
I think Danny DeVito would make an excellent Arthur Morgan.
Oh, my God, I'm on this horse.
Yeah, this is the first time I've been asked that. I don't know. I think it would make I think the TV adaptation is a lot better because it gives you more room to breathe. Trying to fit a game like The Last of Us and Red Dead into 90 minutes or 120 minutes is very, very difficult. I don't know if you even can do it. But, the whole time I worked for Rockstar Games, 5 years we did Red Dead. My part was 5 years. And the whole time they always said the same thing. They said, we make video games. We don't make movies or TV shows. So that's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to it. But if there was an adaptation, I would definitely be very interested to watch it, and I would definitely be very interested to be considered in whatever way that they deemed me possible. But yeah, I think that everybody still loves the Western genre, and Rockstar Games were the only ones who have successfully done it in the gaming medium. So to see how that translates to a TV series or a movie, I think it would be very interesting, absolutely. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think they're currently busy right now with another thing called Grand Theft Auto. And we got that trailer coming out on Tuesday morning. Are you excited?
Oh, they announced the date.
Yeah.
They said the date now. Have they? It's coming out?
It's going to be Tuesday, yeah. I think 9 a.m. Eastern, U.S. Eastern time, so that'll be 2 p.m. here. Yeah, Tuesday. We'll see what it's like. Yeah.
Oh, exciting. Right, now we have some fan questions now. What I'd like to do, because I'm aware of time, please recognize there are people behind you. So we all love the game. It's all had an impact, so let's try and avoid life stories. We all love it. Can we keep to naming questions just so we can get through everyone? Our first question, please.
Hi, I'm Kay. Troy, your role as Wyatt Taylor fucking blew my mind. You did amazing.
Thank you.
So do you sympathize with him as a character?
I have to. If we're not, then I didn't do my job, right? And to me, it is about sympathy, and the difference between sympathy and empathy is being able to, whether or not you've actually experienced that thing or not. So there's always going to be some level of sympathy with the character that you have. But my job as a performer and creator is to blur those lines between the sympathetic and the empathetic. And what I have to do is, again, what does my life look like if that was my experience? And specifically that year, I had spent a lot of time away from home, and it did a number on me. I had gone from shooting in Calgary to being out of the country in Europe shooting on something else, and I spent about 4 to 5, almost half the year away from my family, and specifically my son. And so that aspect, and James was also writing from a very specific place for himself too, because this being the first game that he was making with this studio, he was spending a lot of time away from his family. And so there's that one specific monologue and the through line about him missing his family. He doesn't want to look at them through a screen. And if you get to that part in the game, James couldn't get through that paragraph without crying, and neither could I, because it was so real to us. I don't want to look at them through a screen. I just need to see them. And that to me is, if I can hold on to that, that is the level of empathy that makes every other choice feel authentic. So do I sympathize with them? I think at some level, yes, but my goal is always to not sympathize, but to empathize so that you can empathize with the character.
Everyone's the hero of their own story, too, isn't it?
100%.
Darth Vader's the hero of his story,
Well, they don't think they're actually bad people. They're just surviving in an environment that they're in.
Yeah, there are no bad people. There are just simply our perspective of them. But yeah, we're all heroes of the same story.
Next question, please.
Hi, Troy. Thank you so much for coming to Birmingham.
Yeah, man, my pleasure.
Thanks so much. So all those times when you were coming into the studio to perform the first Last of Us game, did you ever look at the script and you just think to yourself that it was going to be big, it was going to be extraordinary? Were you blown away by the dialogue in the script and what Joe's going to be like and how everybody else is going to be in the game? What was going through your head when you were doing the script? I've
told this story a lot, and it has nothing to do with the dialogue, really, because so much of that when we first heard the story was not written. But I'll never forget, Ashley and I were brought in by Neil and Bruce to be walked through the same pitch that they had to give to Sony to get the game made. And we were there for about an hour and a half, and they were like, why don't we take a break? I was like, yeah. And at the time I smoked, and I walked outside and lit up a cigarette with Ashley. We both just kind of stared off, deer in the headlights. And I was like, do you realize that if this game sucks, it's because of us? Because we knew that we were about to embark on something that was going to be truly magnificent and truly great. There is no way we could ever predict the amount of impact. And there is no way that I could have ever thought that I would be standing in front of you people today and hear the stories that you guys have shared with us, which is the reason why I come to these shows. And just know that when you come and you say, hey, I want you to know what this game has meant to me, or thank you so much, I receive that on the behalf of the entire team, because there was 250 people, or 180 for the first one, and upwards to 300 people that made both of those games. And when you tell me that, I pass that on to them. But there's no way that I ever could have predicted the tremendous success, not just in monetary or millions of units sold, but truly the impact that it's had on people. That much I could never have accounted for, no.
Thank you.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Next question. Thank you.
Hello. So my question's for Roger. I would first of all just like to say thank you so much for Red Dead, and thank you for Arthur Morgan, and thank you for bringing him to life. So obviously when Arthur got TB, that really did change his perspective on life and really change him as a person. But if he didn't get tuberculosis, do you think that he still would have changed and he still would have really shifted his perspective?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, yeah. And the simple answer is I don't know. But thank you, first of all. And just to piggyback what Troy was saying, it really does take a village. Even more so with film and TV in many ways, because we're not responsible for the appearance of our characters. That's done by all the amazing animators. And it really is a collaborative effort. But that's okay. So if he didn't get TB, well, that definitely is the thing that instigates this change of perception on life. I don't know. I think Dutch would have probably still continued on his journey towards mental illness and what have you, and he would have become a different person. And with the vacuum that Hosea's death causes, Micah probably still would have filled that in, and there would have been a devil talking into Dutch's ear instead of Hosea's angel. So I think Arthur definitely would have been on the other side of that. I think he would have conflicted with the way that the gang was going. But his newfound perspective on life, looking at his own mortality in a different way, that wouldn't have happened. So that's hard to say. I think he definitely would have appreciated the safety of the gang, whether or not he knew that his days were numbered. I think his loyalty to the gang was unwaverable, and that never was going to be compromised. So I think that would have put him at odds with Dutch and Micah, the way that chapters 5 and 6 went. So there definitely would have been a few butting of the heads, but his morality would have remained unchallenged. So he might not have attempted to redeem himself in ways and to try and help some of the people that he had wronged earlier. I think his loyalty would have remained to the gang, though, and I think he would have really, really focused hard to make sure that everyone, as many people made it out safely as possible, and that would have put him in a conflict with Dutch and Micah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question there.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you for coming. My question is for Roger. So I think I remember you had to re-record the lines for the horses. I just wanted to know how that conversation went.
Oh yeah, it was easy. Yeah, I remember it very well. So all of the horse dialogue, there was quite a bit of it. And whether or not you have a level 1 bonding with your horse or a level 4 bonding, whether it's a mare or a stallion, it took a couple of days in the booth. And one of our wonderful assistant directors, Gethin Aldous, I would typically do 3 weeks of mocap and then 2 weeks off. And in those 2 weeks off, there might be a day or two in the booth. So I would see Gethin one-on-one about once or twice a month, once or twice every 5 weeks. And he says to me one day, "Oh, Raj, we got to do those horse lines again." I was saying, "Why?" And he said, "Well, it kind of, it doesn't sound like you're talking to a horse." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Well, some of the people are coming back saying it's a bit sexual." And I was like, "No way." And he's like, "Here, just let me play this one line here." And "You're all right, girl. yeah, easy, girl. And I went, yeah, you're right. We should totally do those again, yeah.
Who wants that as a mod?
Yeah, I don't remember how the original dialogue went now, but the way it is now, it could still be very easily interpreted that way, and I have heard it interpreted that way. Some people have played with the vocal and the audio of it and put it onto other things, and it kind of fits pretty well.
That's emergent content, man. I gotta applaud
I know,
that
right?
creativity.
I remember because, so I remember it was likes of Troy and a lot of the Overwatch people told me too. He says, Rod, you've never really made it in gaming until your character is in porn.
100%.
And I guess I've made it in gaming.
Looks like we made it.
Yeah, Red Dead Erection. That was my first foray into. Oh, okay.
2.
I don't even know how to start that next bit, but thank you very much for the question. We'll have to make this next one the last one. If you haven't had a chance to ask your question, there will be autographs the rest of the day, so please go say hi to them as well.
Come on over to the tables. We're going there right after this. Thank you,
Final
everyone.
question.
Hello, I'm a fan of both games. I really can't pick which one I like the most. I've got a question for Troy. So, the Firefly, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. The Firefly Hospital. Now, a lot of fans are debating whether what Joel did was right or wrong. I'm kind of in the middle, like, don't really have a say about it, but I loved Ellie and Joel together, so I'm like, he did what he had to do. Do you think what he did was right or wrong? Do you believe he deserved the Joel one?
Do I believe what?
Do you believe he deserved the Joel one?
Joel in
Very
one is
clever.
simple, and I like that, yeah.
So, here's what I will say. Do I believe that what he did was right or wrong? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I believe that what he did was right, and I believe what he did was wrong. And to answer the second part, that's not how this world operates. There is no karmic system in this world. It doesn't operate by comeuppance and getting yours in the end. This world is cruel, this world is violent, this world is unfair, this world operates without prejudice. This world takes and then it gives indiscriminately. So this isn't, all of it caught up to him, because it should have caught up to him a long time ago, well before the hospital. There's so many. One of my favorite lines that to me is so informing about who Joel is a single line of dialogue that happens in game when he says, right after the truck ambush, and Ellie says, how did you know about that ambush back there? He goes, because I've been on both sides. I've been that guy he's not even hurt. I know exactly what they're doing. That's a bad man. So well before the hospital, he deserved to die. Or at the very, very start of this, he let down his daughter. His one job in this entire world was to protect that little girl, and he didn't do it. Joel should have died if the world was fair, if the world was just that night, not Sarah. So that's not how this world operates. That's not how our world operates. There is no good, there is no bad. And there's this wonderful rant that Freddie Prinze goes on talking about Star Wars. And if you haven't heard it, you should listen to it because it's hilarious, but it's incredibly poignant. If you understand for a second and accept as a fundamental premise that the Force is not about good triumphing over evil, it's that it's finding balance. And so where there is good, evil will balance. And where there is evil, good will balance. And once I understand that any good that I have is just there, but there is going to be something that's going to balance it out, I can then accept that as balance. And secondly, or I guess lastly, what I would say is what Joel said in part 2. If somehow the good Lord gave me a chance at that moment, I would do it all over again. And that is exactly my answer to that question. Do I believe what he did was right or wrong? Doesn't matter. Do I believe that he deserved that? Doesn't matter. The truth is, as a dad, you're damn right I would do it all over again.
Thank you.
Brilliant
Thank you.
question, brilliant answer. Unfortunately, guys, we are out of time. Can I just say personally, I have had the pleasure of speaking to you guys for many years now, and I can quite happily say you're two of the nicest and best guys in the industry. Thank you for keep coming back to visit us here.
Truly our pleasure.
We hope to see you again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Roger and Troy.
Thank you. See you later, guys.